So today I'm going to go over review worksheet 8-1 to 8-3 with the bonus stuff of 8-4. This first section right here says no decimals allowed, all answers must be exact, and as you can see every one of these has one of the special right triangle numbers inside of it. This is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. If that's true, then the two legs are going to be the same. That means x is going to be 7. Then to go from the leg to the hypotenuse, we are going to be multiplying by the square root of 2. When you multiply a whole number by a radical, it's just going to be 7 square roots of 2. For problem number 2, this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. We have the hypotenuse. You always work towards the short leg if you have one of the other pieces. To do that, we would be dividing by 2. 26 divided by 2 would put the short leg at 13. To go from the short leg to the long leg, you would be multiplying by the square root of 3. Remember, when you go over that right angle symbol, you're using that radical 3, which makes this 13 square roots of 3. Make that up some. This next one, we're dealing with the 30, 60, 90 triangle. Here's our 30-degree angle, 60, and 90. This is our short leg right here. We're going from the long leg to the short leg, so we would be dividing by the square root of 3. When you do 7 square roots of 3 divided by the square root of 3, the square roots of 3 will cancel each other out, giving you just 7 for that short leg. To go from the short leg to the hypotenuse, we are going to be multiplying by its magic number of 2. 7 times 2 puts that hypotenuse at 14. For number 4, this is going to be a 45, 45, 90 triangle, which means the legs are going to be congruent. If this leg is 6, then this leg is also going to be 6. To go from the leg to the hypotenuse of a 45, 45, 90, we're going to multiply by square root of 2. That's going to make this 6 square roots of 2. For this next section, two more in this section, I apologize. This is going to make this a 45, 45, 90 triangle, which means the two legs are going to be the same. If this one is 8 square roots of 2, then this one is going to be 8 square roots of 2. To go from the leg to the hypotenuse, we are going to be multiplying by the square root of 2. When you do 8 square roots of 2 times the square root of 2, guys, remember, the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is going to be 4. So it's 8 times the square root of 4, but the square root of 4 is going to be 2. Okay? And 8 times 2 puts you at a hypotenuse right here of 16. Anytime you multiply a radical by itself, you get that number, no radical sign. Okay, this is a 30, 60, 90. Here we go. To go from the long leg to the short leg, you are going to be dividing by the square root of 3. This is going to take a lot of work. So this one's going to be 15 square roots of 3. 15 divided by the square root of 3, I apologize. To get rid of the radical on the bottom, we're going to have to multiply top and bottom by square root of 3, because multiplying the top and bottom are the same things, like multiplying by 1. That makes it 15 square roots of 3 all over 3. We need to simplify. 3 goes into 3 one time, 3 goes into 15 5 times, which will reduce down to 5 square roots of 3. That's going to be your short leg. Then to go from the short leg to the hypotenuse, you're going to be multiplying by 2. When you do 5 square roots of 3 times 2, you're just multiplying these outside numbers, which would make it 10 square roots of 3 for that hypotenuse. Okay, now to our next section. So our next section is going to be about Pythagorean theorem. When we set this up, we just need to identify the c. That's going to be the one that's by itself. So we're going to be using a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So we're going to apply that. Oh, let's identify our c on this one also. So when we set this up, it's going to be 2 square roots of 3 squared plus 10 squared equals x squared. So 2 square roots of 3 squared, you can type it on the calculator, guys. 2 times 3 square root equals and then square the answer. Or you can just do the outside number twice and the inside number once. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 3 is going to put you at 12. Plus 10 squared is going to be 100 equals x squared. That's going to put you 112 equals x squared. Now it doesn't say it has to have no decimals. If it can be a decimal, we're going to go ahead and just take the square root, take the square root. These are calculators. It could ask you for either way. You have to read the test. Okay. So that's going to give you 10.58 equals x. Okay, for this next one, we're going to have x squared plus 5 squared equals 13 squared. That's going to be x squared plus 25 equals 169 minus 25 minus 25. X squared is going to equal 144. And when we take the square root of both sides, it means that x is going to equal 12. Okay, so that's our Pythagorean theorem down here. Let's go back up here. Simplifying radicals. So we're looking for a number that goes into 192 and that we can break this down into. So we're looking for two numbers, one nice number, one not nice number. So we're looking to divide that. Let's see what'll go into that. Let's look for a big number. Oh, it'll divide by 64. So 64 and 3, and then the square root of 64 is 8 square roots of 3. Okay. Now, 288. I know what goes into it very easily because I do this a lot, but you may not see it right away. You may start with a smaller number from that list. 288 will divide by 4, and it'd be 4 and 72. So there you go. Square root of 4 is 2, so it'd be 2 square roots of 72. And then you've got to keep going because it's not broken down all the way. 72 will break down again, so you'll have the 2 out in front, and then the square root and square root. You could do 9 and 8, you could do 36. We've done 72 before. It breaks down in lots of different ways. 36 and 2 is probably the easiest way. The square root of 36 is 6, and remember when the number's on the outside you multiply them, so that'd be 12 square roots of 2. Just so you can see it, the square root of 288 can also break down from the beginning into square root of 144 and the square root of 2, which would be 12 square roots of 2. Same answer, different approach. You can get there lots of different ways. Now 147, we've done this one before, and so we should recognize what goes into this. Try your numbers until you get there. The first number that goes into it is the square root of 49. 49 goes in there 3 times, and then the square root of 49 is 7. Remember, the only numbers you can use as nice numbers, or that first number when you have your two radicals, is going to be from that list. 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, 121, 144, 169, etc. They go on forever, okay? But those are just the first ones that make it easy for you to remember from. Okay. Now trig ratios. This is just setting up the ratio and then giving the decimal for it. This has nothing to do with using the trig button on your calculator. A trig ratio is just finding the fraction. So when we start off, we're starting off by doing A right here. For this first one, A. For sine of A, sine would be, remember, it's going to be opposite over hypotenuse. Remember, you're going to be using so, ca, toa. You need to remember this. So, sine is opposite of hypotenuse. Ca, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Toa, which is going to be tangent, is opposite over adjacent. Since we're doing sine, that's going to be opposite over hypotenuse. So from A, the opposite piece is going to be 10 over the hypotenuse, which is going to be 26. Okay, now 10 over 26 will reduce using your calculator to 5 over 13. And then if you will use the little second and the arrow button, That'll turn it into a decimal, and you'll round it to 2 decimal places, and it'll make it 0.38. For this next one, we're looking at cosine of A. So when you look at cosine of A, you're going to be looking for the adjacent side. That's this one. How do you know it's adjacent? Because it touches it, but it's not the hypotenuse. So from there, we've got adjacent and hypotenuse. Remember, cosine is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. The adjacent side is going to be 24 over the hypotenuse, 26. 24 over 26 will reduce down to 12 over 13. And as a decimal, that's going to be 0.92, rounded off to 2 decimal places. For the last one, we're going to be looking at tangent of A. For tangent of A, we're going to be doing tangent, which means we're going to be doing opposite over adjacent. So up here, we're looking for the opposite piece to A. That's the 10, over the adjacent piece, which is 26. How do I know that's not 26? Excuse me, 24. How do I know it's not the 26? Because 26 is the hypotenuse. The one that touches it, but it's not the hypotenuse, is the 24. This is opposite 10 over the adjacent 24. 10 over 24 is going to reduce down to 5 over 12. And then when you turn that into a decimal, again, second, and then the little arrow at the bottom is going to make it 0.42 when you round it off. The last we're going to do is tangent of C. When we look at tangent of C, that's this one right here. Tangent is going to be opposite over adjacent. That's going to be different when you're looking at angle C. The one opposite from C is going to be 24. The one adjacent to C is the 10. Again, I know it's not the 26 because that's the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always the hypotenuse. This one is opposite, this one is adjacent to C. So it's going to make it 24 over 10, which is going to make it 12 over 5 as a reduced fraction, which as a decimal would convert to 2.4. Okay, so now we get to go to the back and play a trig. So on the back side, we're going to go over here, and we're going to do our trig problems. For our trig problems right here, we're going to start with this right here. This right here is using the side that is opposite and the side that is hypotenuse. If you're using opposite and hypotenuse, remember SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. Opposite hypotenuse means it's going to be sine of x is equal to opposite 13 over the hypotenuse 24. Now, whenever you do an angle, remember you make it sine -1. You switch the x and the fraction over here. So that's going to be 13 over 24 equals x. Whenever it's sine of that x, whenever the angle is the unknown, you just switch these two. And then this is a matter of typing it out. To type this on your calculator, you're going to type 13, fraction button 24, and you're going to hit second sine. That's going to give you on your calculator 32.7 equals x. Now remember, when we're doing angles, we're rounding to the nearest degree. So we're trying to decide what to do with this 32. Is it going to stay a 32 or go up? Based on the 7 behind it, it's going to go up, and it's going to go up to 33. That would be your degree or your angle right there. Right, for this next one, you've got the angle, and you're dealing with opposite and adjacent. If you're dealing with opposite and adjacent, that means you're going to be dealing with cosine. Cosine of 33 is equal to opposite 18 over the adjacent x. Whenever you have that x on the bottom, you're going to switch these two, guys. Switch these two so that it's now x equals 18 over cosine of 33. This is very easy to type. Listen. You can rewind if you need to do it again. It's going to be 18 divided by 33 cosine equals, again, 18 divided by 33 cosine equals